family members had told her, "You were a mistake. You're not even supposed to be here. I don't know why I have to deal with you. You're not even worth my time." That's what they feel, because some of them have been flat told that by their mom, by their dad, by their grandparents, by family members, by the system. And so having someone who shows up says, "I am worth something." They keep coming back to see me. Like, why me? And they ask those things. Well, why do they want to talk to me, Miss Sondra? That, I've had them flat ask me, "Why do you want me here?" And it's God, baby. That's why, and one kid even told me, "Well, I don't believe in God." And I said, "That's okay. You don't it still doesn't change. He's who he is. And he loves you enough that when I read your paper, he gave me the okay. And that meant you're supposed to be here." And he just looked at me and he's like, "But I am bad. Like, I have done drugs. I have lived in the streets. I have, and the list just went on and on and on." And I said, "Yeah." And he just looked at me and he said, "So why?" I said, "Because he loves you. And if he loves you, I love you. And if you'll give me the chance, if you'll stick and not run away, you'll see that." And, I was like, "So I'm just asking for you to give me a chance."
So, welcome to another episode of Discover Seguin. We're so excited today to have Sondra Ajasin. I'm always pronouncing it wrong. It's only been like 5 years, but anyway, Sondra, you are with TruLight127 Ministries. So let's start from the beginning. Let's assume nobody knows anything about this ministry, and you give us an insight into what y'all do and how you serve.
Awesome. So we began in our garage, not anywhere special. We cleared out our garage. My husband's truck had to go, and we started stocking supplies in there. In June of 2015, we started serving the community of people who were taking in maybe their grandkids or their nieces and nephews, or taking in a brand new foster placement. So these were kids who were in some hard times, and we wanted to be able to help families start. And so those things were free. They could come to our garage. They could shop for clothes. They could shop for school supplies. Sometimes we had birthday presents and birthday gift bags and things like that, so that they could have a good start. And we all know if you have a baby, that's very expensive. If you take in a sibling group of 3 and they're 6, 7, and 8 or something, that's even more expensive, because you got to start with school clothes, and it's really difficult to start. And so we wanted to help people get a good start when they were helping kids. And that's where it all started, was just me thinking, we're just going to supply some tangible needs for kids.
Because they wouldn't know way in advance how old these kids were going to be or who they were getting. It was literally, is that my understanding? You get a phone call and then it's...
Yeah. So, usually if CPS is becoming involved, it's an emergency situation. And so when that happens, they don't come with a lot of anything. Sometimes they just come with the clothes on their back, and sometimes those clothes are pretty worn out, maybe wrong sizes, or pretty filthy at that point. So it's not like there's a whole plan in action when it comes to these type of situations. And so starting, we commend anybody who will start, but why leave it all on their shoulders if we could help? And so that's what we started out thinking, was like, oh, we're just going to help.
And is that because you had foster kids at that point?
I had at that point taken in kinship placements, but I was working in the system. I knew the cost, not just the financial cost, but the emotional toil, the shift in our household, all of those things. And I'd been working in foster care, like as a CPS worker, for several years at that point. Yeah, so I knew I knew how it felt for me to drop off kids at a new placement and know, like, they're going to have to scramble, And sometimes people try to be prepared, and you think, okay, I get a 5 and 9-year-old. I probably need to have 5T, 6T clothes, and 8, 9, or 10, 12 clothes. And then they get there and they're super skinny or way bigger than what you thought. So you think you're prepared,
Yeah.
and then you're not, And how do you prepare if you're so open that you say, oh, I'll take any age, I'm just here to help? So we wanted to be a little bit of a buffer, because even foster parents get reimbursed, but that's like a month after the kid's been there. And that reimbursement is not significant enough to really raise kids on. And so I always tell people, if you're in that for money, you're just going to be really disappointed. Because just the startup cost is not fun. So we just wanted to be a little bit of a help to take some pressure off, where they could use that money for other things that they might need. If we could supply clothes and they needed car seats, then they could put their money to car seats. Or they thought they were getting a 4-year-old and they had a toddler bed, but nope, we got a 6-year-old and we need a twin bed, things like that. We didn't really want them to feel alone. And so that was our heart, was just to help.
And how many families were you helping at first?
Oh, man. When we started, I thought it was going to be a slow trickle. But when we started in June, by the time December came, we had probably helped 60 families, and so they would show up. One time I was gone for Thanksgiving, and one of my friends, Shannon, was like, give me your code to your garage in case somebody needs something. And I was like, okay. And so she was calling me like, so-and-so needs, help. And so I'm going to your house. And I was like, that's fine. That's what it's there for. And so we just thought, this is cool. Like, we're going to just do this and kind of coast with it. But God had bigger plans.
Yeah. So when did you find out God had bigger plans?
Yeah. So about midway to the end, probably about October-ish of 2015, I really thought, okay, like, what else am I supposed to do here, God? I had been looking for a different job, because I thought, my husband is all on his shoulders. I need a part-time job or something. And my husband really knew before I did that, no, you're supposed to start this agency. And so Yomi pushed me and pushed me and pushed me until I finally said, fine, I'll see what it looks like. But I just kept thinking, I'm not equipped for this. I'm not equipped to own or run a business. And God just kept pushing me and pushing me. And so in December of 2015, we obtained our license with the state of Texas. And so that enabled us to start working with foster families. And so fast forward 6 more months, almost to the day, 1 year later, we had our contract and our license, and we placed our first kid in June of 2016. And that began a wild ride. I had no idea from that point, what was going to happen. I wasn't making any money. I was just like, okay, like, I don't know how this is going to work, and God just continued to send kids to us and then families to us. And we really just thought, okay, I literally in my head, I thought, if I can help 15, 20 kids this year, that's amazing, God. I'll do it. And that was what I thought in June of 2016. By August, I had to hire somebody to help me. And by December, I thought, wouldn't it be cool, Tiffany? She was my quote unquote office manager. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could help, like, by the end of this year, like 40 kids? And she's like, yeah, and we talked about it. By January, we were over 40.
Wow.
And had to hire again, because I was like, you and I can't run the business side and do, the case management side, which she always still laughs, because she's still with me, that she started out to work in the office. And then one day she was bait and switch. She was sitting on the couch, and I was like, so you have a degree. Like, that's what we need to do at case management. So she's kind of built up the business with me, because she started, from one point, and now she's our residential officer and stuff. But it just continued to grow. And God really showed me that in the midst of all of that, his goal, his dream was not mine. And come 2018, we were walking around a property. And my husband looked at me, and I always say, if Yomi says yes to something that costs money, it's probably God, because he's the cheapest man on the earth. So he's like, this is the property for your children's home.
Oh, man.
And we talked about it, and we ended up purchasing the TruLight Youth Village, which is now 10 acres. It had one house on it and a very rundown, supposed to be a barn-ish type thing. It looked like a snake pit. And I was like, okay, like this is where we're going, God. And, I've seen God provide. Even the day we said to the community and said, come out, see what we're thinking about doing here in Guadalupe County, in Seguin, and come and see what our purpose is, what we want to do. And even that day, God provided money for a second house.
Wow.
And it was just like mind-boggling. So then I was like, okay, we have 2 houses. We can house 20 kids total, and we opened in October 2019, and it is now November 2024, over 5 years now. And we have seen unduplicated over 430 kids come to the TruLight Youth Village.
Well, how many houses do you have now?
We now have 5 houses.
And is there plans for more? Because the property looks like it can handle it.
Yeah, we have that 10 acres. Our first goal is to replace some of our older modular homes. We have one in particular that I'd like to replace with more of a brick and mortar home. So our first goal is that. We want to start working on making brick and mortar homes up there. They last longer. Nothing is wrong with our homes. They're doing great. One of them is getting there, but we want something that will last, and so that TruLight's always an option for kids who don't have a place to go. And so that's our first goal. But yeah, we do want to add at least one more home to the village.
So I know the Lord provides, obviously. How is he providing for this village? Like, I know you're probably getting grants and things like that. And I know the government, I know y'all have had to wait on money just like those foster parents do, So how is this being supported?
Really, honestly, people ask me that all the time. And it is people that I would not think about, that it wouldn't dawn on me, oh, this person. I had a good friend that left Texas, moved away. She had a miracle happen in her life, and we had just bought the village, and we were working on it, and she called one day, and I literally had no clue that what she was calling for. I thought, she starts talking about what do you need? And so I just kind of offhandedly said, man, we need our foundation paid for because I need an admin building. Like, we're growing. I have to have space for our people who are doing all the paperwork that comes with growth. And so she was like, okay. And she said, how much is that? And I was like, a little over $30,000. And she's like, okay. And we'll make that happen. And I was like, okay, thinking, sure.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
And no, she wasn't joking. She made that happen within 2 weeks. We had our foundation paid for. A friend of mine who works in the Comal County area, she and I at that point didn't know each other, just by social media. And thank God for social media. She called me, she's like, my parents want to talk to you, and I was like, okay. COVID, everybody was saying no to kids. And I kind of half-heartedly said in the conversation when asked, what do you need? And I was like, more beds. Like, everybody's saying no, these kids are sleeping in CPS offices because of COVID. And I'm not afraid to say no. God will protect us, and he said, okay, and I was like, okay. And he's like, I like to do things fast, so let's make this happen fast. Go get you 2. And I was like, I don't think he knows how much these houses cost. And in a little less than 8 weeks, we had 2 new houses, and they were licensed, and we were accepting kids. Wow. So God has shown up. Let's face it, the TruLight Youth Village, in any operation like ours that has a in-home residential setting, our foster families, that side of our program is taken care of. Like with our government contracts and stuff, it does well. We don't hire a lot of top dog people to pay out a lot of top dog salaries, nothing like that. It takes care of itself. But anyone who says yes to a residential operation like the TruLight Youth Village, you're not saying yes to money. You're going to be behind. Like, there's no way I can raise 45 kids on the amount of money that we get. You know, it's just no way. So we depend on the community. We depend on people to say yes. And for us, it's always been the community. Yes, we do grants. You know, you never know if you're going to get those things. And it could take months to even hear something from somebody. And we've had some amazing, Harvey Najum has been amazing sponsor for us and has helped us out. So we've had some amazing people step up. Kim's Angels, like we've had people step up, but it's been word of mouth, and it's been people that God has sent to us that I had no idea.
Love that.
Like no idea. And
that's when you know it's God, though, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because they come out of nowhere.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about being with TruLight is seeing God care enough about these kids to make sure that if the state isn't doing what they're supposed to do, that there are people with big hearts who care about these kids. Yeah. And not everybody can take a kid in their house. You know, that's not everybody's calling. I don't tell people, you should take a kid, you should foster, you should do this, because I don't believe that. I think that it would be bad on the kid and bad on the family if it's not what God has called you to. So, but everybody can do something. And we've seen that people who can't necessarily take in kids but find their way to step up for kids, you know?
Yeah, so I want to talk about that because obviously, you know, money is a big deal, and you've had things that you've needed repaired and people have stepped up and done that for you. But what, you know, I know those are big things, but what are the little things? Just the person sitting at home right now who hears this, watches this, and is like, I want to help, but I don't have a lot of money. Like, what can I do, you know?
Oh, we need volunteers. We need mentors. Our kids they feel like the village is their home, and that's what our goal is. But the reality is they've lost all their family members. You know, there's not a rule that kind of says, oh, you're getting put into foster care, so you still get to see your aunts and your uncles and your cousins, you know, and you get to go to your tia's house for Thanksgiving. Those things aren't in place. They lose not just their parents, they lose their entire family for the time that they are in the system. And having mentors and volunteers, I say, is like having a bunch of aunts and uncles who get to come around a couple of times a month and hang out with you. And those people build relationships with our kids. You know, they have someone they can talk to, and it not feel like these are people who are paid to come see me. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a difference between their caseworker and their case manager, even their CASA, who is a volunteer, but the reality is the judge says,
you're getting that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's in their head, you know, and so to have people who, though, are willingly just coming into their lives and mentoring them and hanging out with them. And being a mentor, I think the word scares people when you say mentor, like, oh my gosh, I got the responsibility. No, it's literally showing up.
Yeah. Consistently, I would say, because, you know, Kim and I go out there with our youth, and, you know, the first time we went out, I was in the high school girls' house, and, you know, they don't want to talk to us, you know, and I get that. I grew up, and I wasn't a foster kid, but I grew up in juvie. And so in between being in juvenile, I had to go to these like halfway houses. And so I went to one in San Marcos, and it was a very similar program where we had meals that we got to plan, and we had chores that we had to do, and we got to earn a little bit of an allowance. But the volunteers who came around, unless they came around consistently, there was no trust built there. Yeah. You know, like, I got to see you more, and hopefully you talk to me and don't give up on me, because I am going to have a wall up at first, you know. And
they're testing. Like, you're going to come back, you know. And it's funny, the first time I had a church, not a church, but it was the first time I brought this particular church out. We're walking around, and I'm touring them, and it was the pastor, and I believe the youth pastor, and we're just touring, and suddenly these two girls are just cussing each other out. They're yelling out the house. One's outside on the porch, and the other's in the house, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so, you know, I turned to the pastor, and I was like, welcome to TruLight. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that happened the first time we were there too. So one of our kids, it was a younger it was a younger youth. It was the daughter of somebody. So it wasn't in our youth group. But anyway, she said something that triggered somebody. And I was like, one of my girls said that, I'll be right back.
I was like, oh, okay, you know. And so I come back to them and I was like, so this is what we deal with. This is the mission. This is who it is. It's not butterflies and rainbows, you know, and if you're coming into it with a savior mentality that I'm going in there to save these kids and, you know,
that'd be a wake-up call.
No, because they know, like they know instinctively, you know, this person's just here they're just putting up shade, you know, I'm not going to do that. And so it's got to be consistent. You got to stick it out with them. And the more you show up, the more you stick it out, the more they're going to realize I am loved. I am worth something. You know, I have had so many kids sit in my office, and this just happened within the last month, where in a moment of final clarity where things were coming out, she expressed how family members had told her, you were a mistake. You're not even supposed to be here. I don't know why I have to deal with you. You're not even worth my time. That's what they feel, because some of them have been flat told that by their mom, by their dad, by their grandparents, by family members, by the system. And so having someone who shows up says, I am worth something. They keep coming back to see me. Like, why me? And they ask those things. Well, why do they want to talk to me, Miss Sondra? That, you know, I've had them flat ask me, why do you want me here? You know, and it's God, baby. That's why, you know, and one kid even told me, well, I don't believe in God. And I said, that's okay. You don't, like, it still doesn't change. He's who he is. And he loves you enough that when I read your paper, he gave me the okay. And that meant you're supposed to be here. And he just looked at me and he's like, but I am bad. Like, I have done drugs. I have lived in the streets. I have, you know, and the list just went on and on and on. And I said, yeah. And he just looked at me and he said, so why? I said, because he loves you. And if he loves you, I love you. And if you'll give me the chance, if you'll stick and not run away, you'll see that. And, you know, I was like, so I'm just asking for you to give me a chance. And he did. And he ran away once, but he, you know, he was like, I can't believe you wanted me back. And I was like, dude, I was up till 2 a.m. looking at flights, trying to get to where you were at.
Oh my goodness.
And that's what it takes, is someone to stick and say, I'm here for you.
So let's talk about, you know, you have fundraisers, obviously. People can give money anytime, but you always have, and we just did one with you. And let me tell you, I was so moved by the stories of these foster parents who are taking the kids and the stories that they had, even about what TruLight helped them do. And man, I was so moved. I just wanted to say that. But anyway, tell us about the fundraisers and how often you have them and how we can get involved.
So we try to do at least 3 big fundraisers a year. We don't want to burn out anybody, but the reality is we need the funds, right? Our biggest one is in April. That is a lot of planning and a lot of fun. This April coming up is actually our 10th birthday. So it's our 10th birthday year. So we're going to have a big birthday party because God has done amazing things. Like, we're running up to 2,000 kids that we have been able to help throughout the years. And that's big. You know, we've had over 250 adoptions, you know, so forever families. And we want to celebrate what God is doing for these kids. It's not about me. It's not about, you know, TruLight as a people, as the staff. It is about these kids. And so we work hard to take care of our kids, and we want them to have quality, not just take in a quantity of kids. And so our biggest fundraiser of the year is in April. It was formerly known as our Blue Jean Ball, but we've changed it to Boots and Roots because we truly believe that the reason why we're here is because of our roots. And our roots are people who have invested in these kids. You know, our staff, we have some longtime staff, you know, people out there working in the houses. When those kids are cussing and going off, they are sacrificing, you know, they're out there with them. And so we want to celebrate every year those people who are giving us the roots to be able to build and grow a tree And those tree branches branch off into so many generations. You know, with our kids, it's not one kid, it's generations of children who are changed when somebody says yes. And so in April, we'll have Boots and Roots dinner. It's going to be in New Braunfels again, and we are going to have a blast. We're going to have dinner, of course. We're going to celebrate our wins. I want to show the world, really, the community, though, how amazing these kids are doing and what the successes have been. You know, we just have went through a process here at our job, and we were evaluating ourselves and having other people evaluating, and we pulled our restraint record. And if you don't know what a restraint is, that is when people hold a kid, put them in a hold because of behaviors. We had one in the last year. That's a big deal.
Wow.
That means it's working.
Yeah.
You know, that means we are working to get these kids to a center place where they are doing well. And so those are the celebrations. We want to celebrate the changes that we are seeing in our kids, in our community. And so that one is a big deal. There'll be dancing, and there'll be silent auction items and raffle. It'll be fun. There might be some tears because it always comes when you realize, when your heart says, oh my goodness, these kids are worth it. Mm-hmm. There's always a few tears in the crowd, but it's going to be a blast. We're going to have so much fun. And I encourage anybody who's been a previous donor to come because we want to celebrate you. But also anybody who just thinks, I don't know much about TruLight, you're going to find out that night because our team works that night. You will find staff. You can ask questions about foster care, adoption, mentoring, volunteer. We're there to answer questions. So it's not just a party and a fundraiser. We're also advocating. So we want those questions. Our staff is prepared. We want you to bring in somebody that says to you in a passing conversation, oh, I've thought about foster care. Oh, great. Come to this event with me because they're going to learn. That is a big ordeal for me that we are advocating while we are raising funds. I don't just want your dollars. I want your commitment to these kids, you know, and I've always found in those situations, yes, people are donating their money, but every single event we have people say, how can I come out? How can I volunteer? You know, do you need me to sort clothes? Do you need me to come out there and play basketball with the kids? And so that's also a big thing that we love to do at any of our events. And that's a night to come out and learn and have some fun, but learn.
I love it. Yeah. So what are your other two fundraisers?
This year, we are doing something different. In December, we are having a ugly sweater. We are having an ugly sweater casino night. So we are having a competition, and we are really hoping businesses like use this as their Christmas party for the year, and bring their team out in their ugly sweaters. You're not required to wear an ugly sweater, but bring your team out. Compete against other businesses for who has the best group, the best dress. Like, we wanted to have a little bit of fun with this. And bring a toy, because it is time for our huge Christmas party. And we usually have around 250 kids that we give gifts to. And those kids get 2 gifts. So I'm a big Christmas fan. And my Christmas tree's been up since before Halloween. And I did Halloween with my antlers on. So
that's funny. I dressed up as a reindeer for
That's
Halloween.
Right. Every year I'm in either Christmas pajamas or something. And I love Christmas, and I love to see these kids who have come through such big, hard places have a great Christmas. Mm-hmm. So get your team to collect toys, bring them to the event, competition for who brought the most toys, you know. And we're not going to just have fun playing, you know, casino games. We're going to have some good competitions going on. I was telling Jennifer yesterday, I said, you know, it wouldn't be cool if we had a trophy that every year somebody brings back to see if they can win their trophy. She's like, I'm on it.
I love it.
So we're going to have some fun. And that is December 5th. And that is it's not our first casino night, but it's our first really good Christmas themed. And we're hoping to gather a lot of toys in that event. And of course, the funds that we need to kind of start start the new year out right. And so we're really looking forward to that. And then our Christmas party is a couple weeks later. And I believe at this point we have 128 kids already RSVP'd. And that's not including our village kids that go to that party. So you add on another 40 to that, and then people are steady RSVPing. Our Christmas party is not just for current foster families, but any of our families that have ever fostered and adopted. They are still our family. Mm-hmm. And so we invite them back. In our kinship families, they get to come back. You know, I have seen one of our families that we licensed and adopted when we first started. Every year she emails me, this is the event that we wait for. Like, she's raising her grandkids. And yes, technically, she's not a licensed home anymore, but she's still doing the work.
Yeah.
You know, we want to support that in our family. So they come back for that, and we get to see them all. Santa's there. We have craft tables set up. So if you have a crafty friend and they want to come sponsor a craft table and hang out with the kids and help them do crafts, that's important. We feed them. Santa has the longest line in the world with all of those kids they come back multiple times.
Love it.
And so it's a fun night, and those kids really get to have a good time. And it's really about family, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Our foster families have multiple kids most of the time, and they get busy. And so they get to come. You will see them gathered up in circles talking while their kids are running wild. And it's so great because as an adoptive mom, I have 7 kids of my own. As an adoptive mom, not everybody understands. They don't understand trauma. They don't understand that there may be some mental health issues with my kid. They don't understand things. And to be in a room full of people who just get it. And when your kid throws himself on the ground and has in the fit, nobody's judging you. They're just like, oh, we got you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
no big deal.
So, yeah. So
it's a real village. Like, it takes a village to raise these kids. And,
yes.
And they get to get that sense of family and the village that they need for the support.
And so it's a big deal. We do that. We do events for our foster families about 4 times a year, and that's why. We want them to know you're still family no matter what. And all of our families from back in 2016 are welcome to those events.
So I want to summarize kind of everything that TruLight does. You obviously have children at the village yourself. You also help families get licensed to foster and adopt, or just foster?
Yep, and adopt.
One of my friends, Jana, just told me a couple weeks ago that she got approved through y'all to foster. So I don't know when that happens, but I'm excited for them. And scared because, you know, it's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think they're pretty open. I don't know what age group they're going to do. And what else do you do? So you obviously support these families with that, but what else?
We also have a program called Parenting Tender Hearts. And Parenting Tender Hearts is designed to help biological families or kinship families who maybe can't get licensed even, or they do get licensed, but they still need more help. Parenting Tender Hearts is designed to teach what's called TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention. It's to teach people to reconnect. And a lot of times biological parents don't understand why they aren't connected to their kid. That's my kid. You know, that's my kid. But even the act of removing a child from their home and putting them into foster care is traumatic. So it doesn't matter if that parent feels like they didn't necessarily do anything, and maybe they're right. I don't, you know, sometimes people mess up even on our side of the world. And they do need to understand though that it's trauma. There's trauma that has happened to them. And so these are classes that they go through. Our person who does that, she goes to their home. She sees their home. She gives them advice on how to make sure their home is safe. She watches them interact with their kids. If CPS is saying, hey, your kids are coming home, then she wants to be there to make sure that transition happens. But really, if we can get biological parents who maybe have caused that trauma to their kids to see that it's trauma. It's not proper discipline. It's trauma. To see and accept that, you know, our kids need help. We will see a change in their parenting. And what's really cool, and it sounds weird, but what's really cool is about halfway through these classes, what we're finding is that these parents are actually recognizing their own trauma, and that they are parenting out of their own trauma. And when you realize that, your eyes are opened, and you can see, oh, man, I am parenting out of my own hurts, which means I'm hurting my own kids. And you can see them, like there's a light that comes on and an understanding of, I'm not bad. And most of them aren't. They were raised the same way. This is a cycle of abuse and neglect. And so if you are raised in it, you think it's normal, you don't know better, you do the same. But when you know better, you can do better. Yeah. And so our Parenting Tender Hearts is an amazing program. And we really love to see biological parents. We want reunification if it's safe. You know, if things aren't going to change, then yes, these kids need to stay away from that situation. But if things can change and we can heal and we can see a family heal and move forward, then that's what we want to.
Yeah, I love that. Anything else you want to add?
Really, honestly, TruLight127, our mission is to change the world one child at a time. And we do that by putting James 1:27 into action, which tells us that the pure religion is to take care of the orphan and the widow. Well, we're the orphan side. And that's not a politically correct word. People don't like the word orphan. But really, if your parents are not able to care for you, you're orphaned. And we don't want them to stay orphaned. We want them to have family and be whole as a unit, again, with their birth parents, with adoptive families. You know, if that's what they are, that's what we want. We want to see permanency. But if we if we just stay in our prayer closet, yes, that's a powerful tool. That's the weapon that we can use, right? But there's also things we can do. And so to put it into action means that volunteering, that mentoring, that sponsoring a kid. You know, you can sponsor a kid at the village for a year if you wanted to, 6 months to a year, where you make sure that kid gets a little something once a month that says, hey, somebody cares about you. You don't even have to show up. You just put it in the mail or hit send on Amazon, you know. There's something we can all do. And yes, we know we can pray, but you can also do something. You can show up in some way, form, or fashion. And that is our mission, is to get people to do something. And that is what we're about. Because if you are doing what you're called to do, which is to help others, you're fulfilled. Not just our kids are fulfilled, but you're fulfilled. So it's really a wraparound. And we want to see people change the world one child at a time, because again, you're changing a generation if you can stop the cycle of abuse.